Hello friends! Today I'm sharing how I made this tribute journal cover for Skye with this gifted dog tag inset in the cover. I've already picked out my scrapbook paper using this howling wolf from the Desert Dreams collection by Recollections and the dark leaves for inside the cover from the Harvest Meadow collection, also from Recollections.
Alright, so when I make these things, I want enough of an edge so that I can fold it over to the inside cover. And this is the template of the size of the book I make every month. So if I want this part to be able to fold over into the inside, then I also need about that much on this side. So I'm going to give myself like 1/4 of an inch. So I cut that straight across.
I'm also cutting this cardstock that I recycle from my cat food deliveries. You can see the impressions from the small cat food cans. They make an excellent foundation for journal covers. Here I'm using a template that is the size of my signatures in order to map out my cover. I give it roughly a 1-inch spine. I'm not using a ruler because, well, I'm into my second year of making my own covers. Although these days I create my signatures and work in them and play in them and wait until I'm done before making a cover because you just don't know how chunky my signatures are going to be. After cutting the cover to size, I then use the scoring tool to put creases in the cardstock. The scoring tool allows for nice, clean folds. Watch. Pop! How fun. And then, just like that, we have the beginning of a journal cover. Since I know for sure that I want the howling wolf on the back cover, I'm going to go ahead and score the edges that will fold over the cardstock. But unfortunately, instead of using the scoring wheel, I just used the cutting wheel. Head smack, grumble, grumble. This just confirms that I should do more voiceovers rather than try and talk and chew gum at the same time. Anyway, I didn't have a second sheet in stock, so now it's time to adapt and overcome. Something about laughing at life's colorful blessings, one creative idea at a time. Well, let's see how we can make this a happy accident. Using the short end, I just folded it over the cardstock and used the creases to fit the scrapbook paper to size. And now I'm just cutting the excess off and we're moving forward. I'm just giving it a test fit. It's not too shabby. It looks okay. It's just that bottom edge. Anyway, I decide that even though I don't have an edge at the bottom of the scrapbook paper to fold over, I'm going to move forward with gluing down just the back side and take it from there. Since I don't have a template or a plan, I'm on this adventure piece by piece as it comes together. But I like that freedom to explore, to make mistakes, although I grumble a lot in the moment. But when I look back over my journals, it's so interesting to see how they have evolved over time. Eventually it all comes together in the end, one way or another. I really don't have to get too upset. All right, look, it's starting to take shape. Let's just clip this corner of the scrapbook paper, and then we'll start gluing down the edges just on the back cover. Okay, with the edges of the back cover folded over and glued inside, I'm trying the front cover photo out for size. I'm also eyeballing where I want to place that dog tag. I'm struggling with the fact that it's covering up her paws. I don't like that, and I really want it in that bottom right-hand corner. I decide to move the picture of Skye up, exposing some of the scrapbook paper on the bottom. So with the dog tag in that bottom right-hand corner, it looks like her left paw is resting on top of the dog tag. How cool! I started to outline the placement of the dog tag at the bottom on the scrap paper, but after some thought, because I knew I wanted the dog tag to be inlaid in the cardstock, I was happy I knew enough not to adhere the scrapbook paper to the front cover yet. So I folded it back and positioned everything where I want it again, so I can slip that photo out from underneath, and I'll outline that dog tag right on the cardstock. Easy does it. Okay, right there. With my cutting mat in place, I painstakingly take the time to cut out by hand where the dog tag will be inlaid. I fold the scrapbook paper on the front cover back down and work from the inside. I outline where I need to cut and create an opening in the scrapbook paper. I intend to cut the scrapbook paper just a little bit smaller than the opening I need, so that it creates the slightest bit of framing around the dog tag. I'm using an Arteza sculpting tool, that they usually use on clay, to rub along the edges of the dog tag to create a creased outline. Once I get that little window cut the way I like, I took a brown Sharpie marker to darken the edges of the frame. I don't know about you guys, but I save a lot of the plastic film packaging that comes with my art materials so that I can reuse them and keep them out of the landfill. I didn't want anything too heavy, so this will work perfectly as a clear window to protect the front of the dog tag. Using my helping hand to hold back the cardstock cover, I used double-sided tape around the window opening to adhere the plastic film wrap, just like a window envelope. After trimming the plastic film, I decided to add packaging tape to hold it down because honestly, I don't necessarily trust the longevity of the double-sided tape. I also made sure that the packaging tape did not cover the edges of the scrapbook paper, so when I fold them over and glued them to the cardstock, the glue would stick better. Did you know that I get some of the best scrap cardstock in my junk mail? I just cut a piece here just to use as a backing to the cardstock so that the dog tag has something to lean against. So when you're facing the front cover, you put the dog tag in the slot and then you cover it with the scrapbook paper. I just used regular white school glue and then just placed the dog tag in. Come on, get in there. Trying not to get my fingerprints all over it. Once it was set in there, I gave it a little polish. Polish the back of the window too. Okay, let's add glue to the cardstock. Give the tag one final polish. And then let's seal it under the scrapbook paper. Alright, it's time to put Skye's photo on the top. So I'm feeling around with my fingers so that her left paw is sitting on top of that dog tag. And I'm basically just pushing to make an impression on the photograph so that I know where to cut. Okay, let's do this. I'm adding my glue, and I also want to make sure to get around the edges. I love these little silicone brushes for details like this. Okay, here you go, my little girl. Let's get you on here. Awesome. Okay, time to fold over the edges and seal that photo on the front cover. Well, I can't say that this has ever happened to me before, but I don't have the footage for how I completed this cover because I just finished with placing her on there. I never answered the question about how I solved this end. And it turned out to be pretty simple because the same paper pad that had the wolf had these borders in there. And I wound up just placing a border on the edge to fold over into the inside. The other details that I added, I did a black Sharpie marker around the edge to make the frame stand out. And then I also added these brads. It was an afterthought, and it would have been easier to do them earlier in the process. But I decided if I put a brad in through the hole of the dog tag, that will help it from getting loose. And then aesthetically, I was thinking of the brads on either side here, and they also kind of cinched it, having a guard on either end of it. If this wasn't so low to the bottom, I probably would have added another one here. But it didn't make sense, you know, especially because this one's in a hole and there was no hole at the bottom there. And then, like I said, this border kind of covers everything. Then I added the label after I filled the diary, so I knew what date it was ending on. Then, before I even put the two signatures in, I took that brown paper, and it's basically just covering the back, right across the back. And that's what finishes off the inside cover. Well, then adding the signatures in, that would be a whole different video. I think the total raw production time was probably around 3 hours with all the thinking and processing and trying to figure out how I wanted it to come about. So I really love how it turned out. And again, I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch and see how it all came together. Thanks for watching, guys. Love you. And hug your fur babies for me, okay?